Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where I have the opportunity to catch up and chat with amazing humans. For this episode, I'm so happy to introduce Laura Houldsworth to this conversation. Laura, pleasure to see you.
Matt, it's a pleasure to see you too. It's been a long time and it's great to connect.
It's been a very long time, absolutely. So as always, I'll just do a very quick introduction. This is one of the episodes of the Podathon, the 24 hours, 24 recordings. This is episode 14 of this event, which is just incredible to think we're already well over halfway now. So Laura and I, we used to work together in the same organization many moons ago, actually. Didn't meet that many times, actually, but, you know, we always sort of shared a common interest. We were in the same division of the company, I guess. And it was all around business travel, as many of my connections are from a business travel background. Laura's based out in Singapore, and we've stayed in touch really, and we've sort of chatted about different things mental health related over the years, and sort of, I know you follow my work, and I've been following you and your new promotion within your job, which is great. So congratulations for that. But I'll let you do your introduction. So welcome, Laura, to the conversation of mental health with me today.
Thank you so much, Matt. I'm just super excited to be here, and I'm so impressed with you on hour 14 of this, and still 10 more to go. So awesome job on your side.
Thank you.
I've heard a couple of the others earlier on that you've been talking to, and I think it was Odette that said, I was so humbled to receive the invitation to be part of this amazing process that you're going through. But then thinking, I said yes, of course, and then started thinking, wow, do I actually have anything to share? And then I've heard so many inspiring stories, and then I got to thinking, well, you know what, let's just talk anyway. And it's been, as you mentioned, I've been kind of following you, and the works that you've been doing to support mental health have really inspired me. And I say that from the bottom of my heart, that I have now kind of gotten involved in mental health charities and support work because of seeing what you are doing. And it really kind of hit home to me, maybe an opportunity for me also to help, because I feel like I'm in a very positive place in life, and there are a lot of people that are not. And so I was able to kind of get involved. So yeah, and I've been living here in Singapore for the last 16 years, my husband and I. So we are busy kind of working and supporting where we can in this space. And I love the fact that the UK has made it Time to Talk Day, because it's been for so long not a topic that has been talked about, and now it's high, I think, on most people's agenda, which is fantastic. And the more we can do this kind of thing, the better.
Brilliant. And this is a great way to connect conversations globally, and this is what I'm trying to do with this, of course, and the ones you've listened to are from different countries, representing different cultures, experiences. So I will probably delve a bit into the cultural conversation as well within this, because I think it's important for people to understand there is differences in the way mental health is seen overseas and in different territories. So brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Laura, for participating in this, first and foremost. So the question I always ask is the journey with mental health. Just give us a sort of an insight from your world as to how you see, your own and what you've experienced through your life, and maybe some of those changes, if you can. Anything you want to talk about. That's your story, your time to tell the story now.
Great, thank you, Matt. And as I said, when I think back, do I really have, a story about my own mental health? And I got to thinking about so many different parts of my life that have impacted where I am today. And I'm in a great place, emotionally, physically, and I just feel like I'm in a place where I can help. And the first probably realization of, and mental health has so many different areas, and I think that's also what I got to thinking about. And I've seen different people be impacted by many different parts of it. It's not, we go kind of to the darkest place, which is people who are suicidal, right? And that's kind of the darkest space for people to get to. But there's a lot of things that lead up to that. And there's a lot of different things that impact people. So whether it's anxiety, whether it's loneliness, whether it is fear. And I just feel like it's such a broad topic that there are so many different things impacting different people at different times. And if I think back to, when I was very young, I was a late teenager when, unfortunately, my mum suffered a very severe stroke. She was only 46 at the time. I'm now rapidly approaching that age, and it's starting to resonate with me what she went through. And so she had a severe stroke, I say at 46, and never walked or talked again at the age of 46. But mentally, she had everything still there. So now suddenly, mentally there, physically trapped in a body that can't do anything, and gone from working full time, being a very active, physically fit person, to this trapped body. And at the time I was, like I said, 17 when it happened. So over the next course of a few years while she lived like this, it was desperate for her. And I wasn't able to kind of deal with it or to know how to cope with her emotional state. And at that time, we're talking about the late 90s, there wasn't this support either for it. There was hospitals, and she spent 8 months in the hospital, and she had a lot of friends, and there was carers, and kind of the physical aspect was taken care of, but the emotional aspect was never addressed. So I came home one day, man, by now I'm in my early 20s, and we'd moved her from a manual wheelchair to a electric one, so she had a little bit of freedom. She couldn't do a lot, but with her right hand, she had taken herself to the kitchen and drank bleach.
Wow.
And so I got home to find her. She's trying to end her life, right? Because she's just so trapped. And we took her to the hospital, and we fixed the physical part again, but not the mental part. So it was just, there was no addressing of how do we deal with what she's going through mentally. And I just feel like that was a period in time that it wasn't so well talked about. In the hospital, they pumped her stomach and sent her home.
Yep.
And everybody was like, don't do that. You can't do that. And I said to her, you can't do that. And then, but not really taking into account what she's feeling. So it's really kind of that that has made me realize now, as I'm approaching that same age, that she went through, and that I'm in a place where I feel like I can potentially help. And so I've kind of got involved. But that was probably the first big thing for me, of realizing when it's not addressed or not supported or not helped, that it has a major impact. And I think now, I hope now, even in hospitals, as people go into these situations, and I heard Anita talking about her experience with cancer, there is now, I think, much more of a acknowledgement that there's a mental component to diseases, and it's not just physical parts that we need to fix. So that was kind of my first brush with it, if you like.
It's a big one as well, right? It is a big one, because obviously it's somebody that you're very close to, and it's somebody, and like you say, you're approaching that age. I'm approaching 46 as well, and it sort of puts perspective into the conversation, doesn't it? Around, you do think, and then you do start to have some, little things might start to happen, and then you start to worry, and the anxiety can form itself around those things as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one of the challenges that I've seen, definitely from the mental health perspective, is if you've got a mental illness and you go into a physical hospital, they don't know what to do with you. And that's one of the challenges. So, it's almost the converse of what you've said, is physical illness with a mental impact. They'll deal with the physical. And that's such a critical point at the moment with mental health problems, because they don't really know what to do with you. If you've got a mental illness, are you physically compromised? Well, maybe, if you've hurt yourself, self-harm, or attempted to do something a little bit more extreme, but very difficult to sort of access services and supports around those. Did they ever give anything for your mum after that? Was there ever? That was it. They just sort of sent her home, said, don't drink bleach, it's a bad idea. And
and then we did probably the worst thing ever, took her out of the electric chair and put her back in the manual one, so she couldn't do it. And I'll look back at that and how
punishing,
awful that is. But at the time, didn't know what else to do.
No.
And just, so it's but you're right. I mean, even the mental health hospitals, and we know that they're there and these great supports, but there's also a stigma around them for the people that are feeling, because when you think about it, we talked about it before, but whether it's fear or anxiety or whatever it is that causes it, you're not necessarily thinking, I've got a mental health problem. You're just thinking, I'm anxious, or I'm fearful, or I'm lonely. And the stigma then to think I've got to go to a place where people associate with extremes. In the work that I do here with the mental health support, there's a big fear about going to that hospital. Right. Sometimes we recommend it, and there's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to have the stigma attached to me. If I go, they'll maybe they'll keep me there, and it's very, very tough for people, and getting the right level of support.
And in terms of sort of the local cultural elements, and let's touch on that now, because I think it is a really useful conversation to understand. And what is out there for help where you are? is there much advertised or publicized anywhere, or is it still very much sort of kept under the radar a bit?
I think it's better. I know maybe that's the case everywhere, but it's definitely improving. There are a lot of different support organizations. They are advertised quite heavily. That irony, and I don't even know if it's an appropriate thing to talk about, but it used to be illegal to commit suicide in Singapore.
Right.
So there is, up until only beginning of last year, like January 2020, they actually removed that. So you imagine the fear of, you want to end your life, but if you don't succeed, you've now got to face criminal charges. So imagine the pressure on somebody that has that. So luckily that was removed. And because, as we know, some people will get to that extreme, and sometimes it's more a cry for help. They don't want to end their life. They would need people to realize where they're at. And to have that then criminalized, it was just, a very, very sad situation for me, at least, to feel. And so I'm pleased to see that gone, and that people can now acknowledge that they feel this way when it gets to that level of that desperation. And when we're talking about mental health, it doesn't always have to go that far, right? But it does get that way for some people if they can't get the level of support. So I'm super impressed now that it is much better here. I mean, even the local Samaritans now have text messaging service. Because trying to reach to the younger population who are not used to speaking that much, right? They feel more comfortable texting. So, I've seen that service is available. Email services are available. People are getting the support where and how they like to interact, which is also,
sounds like there's progress. Sounds
like
it's progressing in the right way, and the fact that they've taken away this sort of criminality element of suicide, and one of the biggest challenges is often, and I was just talking to a guy earlier today in one of the podcasts, a young guy called Liam, and he was talking about, he wanted to die, or he didn't want to be alive, but he didn't want to end his life. So he wasn't suicidal. He said this in one of his videos, and I found it quite fascinating. He talked about not wanting to end his own life, but he didn't want to be alive. And that is the reality that a lot of people get to, is the pain becomes so great and so intense that the only option I've got is not to be alive. But I don't want to die. And it's that, it's that tragedy of, there are a lot of people, I think, who go down that path of taking those choices, I guess, and because they don't feel there's alternatives. So it's a toughie.
It is. And I mean, here, even Singapore is very small, but there is still, even when I say that things are improving to support people, there is still, I think the stats are something like at least one a day a suicide, and that's a small country. And I don't know if this aligns to other places, but it's a lot of males between, I think it's like 40 and 50 or 35 and 50, when I think the pressure of maybe financial comes on. I don't know the whole reason, and then young people, it's increased significantly. And we look at all the different reasons why that can be, and that kind of leads a little bit to my second experience, where actually my stepsister went through huge anxiety, and it was something she couldn't really talk about, but it became debilitating for her. And she was very young. I don't want to share too much of her story, but she was completely debilitated by it, and has found ways to come out of it now, and has found a career that would have been so far from her imagination back then. So I'm just super proud of the way she's managed to come out of it. And, I know she now supports and helps other people and has a different approach to managing these things, but it crept up on her. It came from, she was a regular teenager going out doing a lot of things, and then over kind of a period of time became to the point where she couldn't leave the house. And it was anxiety driven, but 100% debilitating for a while. So it's kind of scary for people. And like we're talking about what it is that drives it. And I think social media, that wasn't the case in this case, but social media makes people very lonely, or the aspirations very high, or even the shaming. It pains me so much, and I'm sure it's the same for you, when you see people being shamed through social media. Just that people then, how do they live with it? And so quite often they don't see a way out.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like cyberbullying and all those
Yeah.
elements is such a critical part of social media, unfortunately, that needs a lot more support and
Mm.
a lot more sort of channeling in terms of the sort of the restrictions that people are placed under and things like that with the way that they can troll people. And it's horrible. It really is. And it just creates this whole challenge. It's sort of going back to some of those statistics that you were saying around sort of males, and they're very similar for the UK, 3 times more men than women end their life through suicide. And, the numbers are similar when it comes to the age ranges as well. And it's a global issue. It really is. It's a
Mm.
global issue. 800,000 people a year end their life through suicide. And, that's just 800,000 too many, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
reality. And thank you for sharing that about your stepsister as well, and her, her challenges with anxiety, because we do have a lot of people around us and we don't often realize, or we don't often think about it. And, some of the quirkiness that others have mentioned in their sort of, I think Karen in Canada was talking about, back in the days when she was younger, her mum was talking about, women were going through the change and how they were being taken off to special places. And it's fascinating to sort of consider that these are things that have
Yeah,
happened, only 2 generations away from us. And
absolutely. And
and
in many societies, probably still happening.
oh, undoubtedly, yeah.
Back to the kind of the cultural piece. It's
It is, isn't it?
yeah.
It is. This is such a critical point in the conversation of everything around mental health needs to be discussed, and we need to feel okay with those conversations, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah, so let me delve a little bit deeper then with you, Laura, if that's okay, to ask you, how have you been in the last year? How's things been for you, really? How have you been?
It's been an interesting time. If you look at the environment that we're now living in, that I've been talking a lot about work about this over the last month, because I'm in a sales environment, and I'm very fortunate to work for a very large organization that acknowledges mental health as a very
Brilliant.
big issue, and globally. We've got over 100,000 employees, and it is a big topic. So there's a lot of care and attention, especially in this environment, to making sure that people are taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been talking a lot about that we've got to keep going, and times have been tough, but we've got to keep the business going, and everyone's kind of moving us forward. But the reality is, it's been, I think, hard for a lot of people. I feel incredibly fortunate for my situation. So we stopped traveling, and the reality is that's kind of the worst it's been.
Right.
And that is bad when we were traveling 70-80% of the time. But with that has come the ability for my husband and I to spend 100% of our time together,
Right.
which we'd never done. It's always been a common joke between our friends that we were permanently on honeymoon, because the small amount of time we ever spent together was always like a honeymoon, right? But to spend 100% of time together has been amazing for us both, and we are just super fortunate to have had that opportunity. For the reasons it came is not the reason we would have liked, but it gave us also kind of an opportunity to pause and take stock of what's really important. And we're fortunate to be in Singapore. We went through a period of lockdown for 6 weeks last April, and we've been much freer ever since. So I know that here we're in a very fortunate position, which is not the case everywhere else. But with that has brought about financial struggles for people in the market. So then people are less worried, I think, about catching COVID now. I think people still are, but less worried about that and more worried about the maybe economic impact, or when does it come back. So for me personally, it has been an interesting 12 months. And Todd, my husband, and I also talk about it, that it's one of those things that kind of came in, while it came in very quickly, the fact that recovery is not happening as quickly has happened slowly. Does that make sense? When we went into lockdown first, like, oh, it will be done by June and back to BAU, and we'll see everybody on this other side, right? And then obviously that didn't happen. And so the fact that recovery keeps getting further and further away has meant that we've kind of eased into that part of it without really realizing, it's been coming up on a year. It first hit Singapore in January. So it's coming on a year, and we're probably at least a year away. I mean, I'm definitely not an expert on it.
No.
I would like to be, but
well, I don't think the experts are experts on it either. So
that's
from
very
our
true.
experience here in England, definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Yeah,
Very
follow
true.
the
So
data. What is it, the science or something? Yeah, follow the.
yeah.
Gosh, yeah,
Something needs to be there.
yeah,
But yeah, so I think that my journey of the last 12 months has been, I just feel very, very fortunate. And if I have the opportunity to help other people that are not right now, then that's what I want to do.
yeah,
And so whether it's charity work, whether it's even donations, I also just know that people are struggling. And even my husband's family have all been impacted by COVID. They've all had it. Parents, brothers, everybody has had it, and his parents have lost a lot of friends to it. Unfortunately, they're of the age where it's has been very impactful. So we've kind of felt it from a distance, but
but it does impact as well, right? You do feel that,
definitely,
and the ripple of that is, I think that's one of the things that's going to come with COVID is the ripple impact is almost like, and I hate to compare it, but it's almost like losing somebody through a suicide, because it was sudden for many people and it was unexpected and nobody saw it coming, and lots of people have been impacted by that, and the ripple of that within communities, within people's, nobody's really had, I know from here, the opportunity to really grieve for those loved ones, and often didn't even see them, and I think that's something that's going to come out at some point. There is going to be the following of the pandemic will be another challenge mentally for lots of people. So I just want to touch on your charitable piece a little bit as well, just at the end, because we're almost at the end. And I just, if in a few words, if somebody was to say to you, I'd love to go and join a charity to support conversations or whatever it is, what would you say? What would you tell them?
Do it. Definitely do it. It's, if you have the ability to give back, do it. And everyone does it for their own reasons, whatever the charity is. And I can tell you, I spent quite a long time looking for an organization to support, and I was looking around in Singapore, and I didn't find anything that resonated with me, and I wanted to do something that I would stick with, not just do for the sake of doing, but something that actually, if I resonated with me, it would be something that I would continue to do, and not, you can go and do one day here and one day here, but I wanted to do something more meaningful. And it was, like I say, when I saw the work you were doing, that I was like, okay, this one I think I can get involved with and I can support and help. And it's been a journey for me. Everything about it, from kind of where we started to where I am now, and I'm still in the infancy of my journey with it. And I want to continue to do it. And I just, it's humbling for me. It also makes me kind of, reevaluate how appreciative I am for my current situation. And so I'd highly recommend, if anybody can and has the ability to give back in any way, to do it. And if this topic resonates with you, then there are many, many, many ways that you can support and help.
Brilliant. There are, and I agree. Do it. There you go. There's wise words. Just do it. Do it. What
Somebody coined that phrase some time
exactly.
ago.
I reckon. Yeah, just do it. Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Honestly, Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really have enjoyed catching up with you. We are at the end now, unfortunately, because the next episode is going to be taking place very soon. But it's just been amazing. I really do genuinely just send you all the very best with everything that's going, in Singapore for you and your volunteering career, your new role and your promotion, and just wish you all the very best of luck really with everything.
Thank you so much, Matt, and again, thank you so much for inviting me to this. I thought 25 minutes would take a long time, but it's flown by. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
It's disappeared before us.
And best of luck for the next 10 hours, and keep up the great work. It is time to talk, and it's
it certainly is. And just to finish on that, really, just to say, if anybody is struggling, if you do need any extra support or help, there are organizations, of course, that exist today to do exactly that, to listen to your challenges, your worries, your concerns. Of course, I always talk about Samaritans in the UK. There are organizations all over the world that are there to listen and to take your call. So please know you are not alone. You are really not alone. There is always somebody who will listen. In the UK, the number's 116 123. Do reach out if you need somebody to talk to. Please do. Laura, we're done.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
it.
you, Matt, so much.
Lovely to see you. See you soon.
You too. Bye.